In 2003, the bright lights of Hollywood lured Kristi Johnson, a young woman with dreams of stardom, into a trap she couldn't escape. Deceived by a man posing as a casting agent, her life was tragically cut short in a crime that shocked the nation. Join us as we delve into the heartbreaking case of Kristi Johnson, exposing the sinister side of ambition, deception, and the pursuit of justice.
Kristi Johnson was born on February 27, 1981, in Los Gatos, California. Her family relocated to Saugatuck, Michigan, in 1987, where she spent her formative years. A vibrant and ambitious young woman, Kristi harbored dreams of making a mark in the film industry. After graduating from Western Michigan University, Kristi moved to Santa Monica, California, in early 2003 to pursue her aspirations in Hollywood. Her family supported her decision, believing in her talent and determination. The move represented a significant step toward achieving her lifelong goals. On February 15, 2003, Kristi visited the Century City Mall in Los Angeles. There, she was approached by a man posing as a casting agent, offering her an audition for a role in an upcoming James Bond film. The opportunity seemed like a dream come true for the aspiring actress. The man, later identified as Victor Lawrence Paleologos, claimed the role came with a substantial paycheck, making the offer even more enticing. Unaware of his sinister intentions, Kristi agreed to meet him later that day for the supposed audition. This decision would tragically alter the course of her life. Kristi failed to return home that evening, prompting concern from her roommate and family. After 2 days without contact, her mother, Terry Hall, filed a missing persons report with the Santa Monica Police Department on February 17, 2003. The search for Kristi began in earnest. Investigators learned of Kristi's meeting with the alleged casting agent, raising alarms about her safety. The details of the encounter suggested she had been lured under false pretenses. The urgency to locate her intensified as days passed without any leads. On March 3, 2003, hikers discovered Kristi's body in a ravine in the Hollywood Hills. She had been bound and strangled, her life cut short in a brutal manner. The discovery devastated her family and sent shockwaves through the community. The investigation revealed that Paleologos had a history of similar offenses. In 1995, he was convicted of breaking into a former girlfriend's home and holding her against her will. Despite this, he had been released on probation, allowing him to continue his predatory behavior. Further inquiries uncovered that Paleologos had approached other women using the same ruse, promising acting opportunities to lure them into dangerous situations. These revelations painted a picture of a calculated predator exploiting the dreams of aspiring actresses. The community grappled with the tragedy, mourning the loss of a young woman full of potential. Vigils were held in Kristi's honor, and discussions about the safety of aspiring actors in the industry gained prominence. The need for greater awareness and protective measures became evident. As the investigation progressed, authorities built a case against Paleologos, aiming to bring justice for Kristi and prevent him from harming others. The legal proceedings that followed would shed light on the extent of his crimes and the failures that allowed them to occur. The tragedy of Kristi Johnson's death underscored the vulnerabilities faced by those pursuing their dreams in unfamiliar environments. Her story became a cautionary tale, highlighting the importance of vigilance and the need for systemic changes to protect individuals from predators. Following the discovery of Kristi Johnson's body, law enforcement intensified efforts to apprehend her killer. Investigators focused on the lead involving the supposed casting agent she had met at the mall. This angle became central to unraveling the mystery of her disappearance and murder. Detectives canvassed the Century City Mall, interviewing employees and patrons who might have seen Kristi on February 15th. Witnesses recalled a man matching Paleologos' description engaging with young women, bolstering suspicions about his involvement. The investigation took a significant turn when multiple women came forward with similar stories. They recounted encounters with a man posing as a casting agent, offering auditions for high-profile films. These testimonies established a pattern in the perpetrator's modus operandi. One woman, Susan Murphy, provided a particularly compelling account. She had been approached by Paleologos under the guise of a casting opportunity but had escaped before any harm occurred. Her detailed description of the suspect and his tactics proved invaluable to the investigation. On March 11, 2003, authorities arrested Victor Lawrence Paleologos in connection with Kristi's murder. He was charged with first-degree murder, and the case against him began to take shape. The arrest brought a sense of relief to a community on edge. The trial commenced on July 13, 2006, with the prosecution presenting a robust case built on witness testimonies and circumstantial evidence. Over 40 witnesses testified, painting a damning picture of Paleologos' predatory behavior. Prosecutors highlighted Paleologos' prior convictions, including a 1998 rape for which he had served 5 years before being released in January 2003. Kristi's murder occurred just 26 days after his release, underscoring the threat he posed to society. Faced with overwhelming evidence, Paleologos pleaded guilty to Kristi's murder on July 26, 2006. The plea deal allowed him to avoid the death penalty, resulting in a sentence of 25 years to life in prison with the possibility of parole. The sentencing provided some closure for Kristi's family, though the pain of their loss remained profound. Her mother, Terry Hall, became an advocate for victims' rights, working to ensure that predators like Paleologos remain behind bars. In August 2023, Paleologos waived his right to a parole hearing, delaying any possibility of release until at least November 2025. This decision was a relief to Kristi.
All right, so, we've all heard about Kristi Johnson, an aspiring actress who came to LA to chase her dreams and whose story ended in tragedy. Well, today we're diving deep into this case and really going to explore what makes this story so disturbing and how it kind of shows the dark side of Hollywood. We've got court transcripts, witness testimonies, investigative reports. So we're going to try to get to the bottom of this.
It's interesting. What really strikes me about this is how it kind of uses these classic Hollywood tropes, that promise of instant fame, right? Skipping the whole years of struggling to make it. And This is super powerful. And it's what makes people, especially aspiring actors, vulnerable to people like predators like Victor Paleologos.
It's almost like the ultimate bait and switch. So Kristi, she was born in 1981, and she moved to Santa Monica in early 2003, full of hope, And then on February 15th, at the Century City Mall, she had this encounter that just seemed too good to be true. And she was approached by this guy who say he was a casting agent for a James Bond film. He even offered her a bunch of money to make it seem even more real.
See, that's really smart. He was tapping into exactly what draws people to Hollywood, right? It's a good reminder that even in a place like a mall, you can be taken advantage of.
Yeah, for sure. So Kristi, she's obviously super excited about this opportunity, and she agrees to meet with him later for this audition. But knowing what we know now about Paleologus, this is where things get really scary. It wasn't just random. It was all planned out.
Yeah, this was not his first time doing something like this. He was actually convicted back in 1995 for breaking into his ex-girlfriend's house and holding her hostage. And they let him out on probation, and he just kept doing it. It's like, did they not think he was dangerous?
I know, it's crazy. How can someone do that and then just be allowed to be out and about? And the worst part is, the police found out that he had done the same thing before with other women, luring them in with the same promises of fame and fortune.
Oh, wow. So this wasn't just a one-time thing. This guy was targeting these women on purpose.
Exactly. It wasn't just a crime of opportunity or anything. He was going after a specific type of person. And for Kristi, this meeting was her last. She never came home from that audition.
Yeah, missing person cases are so scary. Time is really important, The faster the police are involved, the better chance they have at finding that person.
Right. And thankfully, her mom, Terry Hall, filed a missing persons report 2 days after she disappeared. And the police knew right away that something wasn't right. It wasn't just someone who had wandered off. She had disappeared under really suspicious circumstances. And sadly, about 2 weeks after she went missing, on March 3rd, 2003, things took a horrible turn.
What happened?
Hikers found her body in the Hollywood Hills.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, she had been bound and strangled. It was just awful. Everyone's worst fears were confirmed.
Wow, it's just so sad. LA can be such a dark place sometimes.
Yeah, you're right. All the glitz and glamour. Can't hide the fact that there are bad people out there. But the scariest thing is, this wasn't just some random act of violence. This was done by someone who had done this type of thing before. Someone who knew exactly what he was doing and knew how to take advantage of people. And to think, this guy, he was already a convicted rapist back in 1998. He went to prison for 5 years for that.
Oh, wow. So how did he end up back on the streets? What went wrong?
Yeah, that's what's so scary. He got out in January 2003. And only 26 days later, Kristi was murdered.
Gosh, that just shows how the system totally failed her.
It really does. So what can we do? How can we prevent something like this from happening again?
Yeah, that's the big question, right? I think it starts with admitting that there's a problem and asking the tough questions like, how do we assess risk? How do we make sure that people who are released aren't a danger to others?
Right, just putting someone in prison and hoping for the best clearly isn't enough.
No, definitely not. We need to be smarter about it and look at the root causes of these problems and find real solutions.
Yeah, we need a plan that actually works.
Exactly.
It's amazing, though. Kristi's mom, Terry Hall, she didn't let her daughter's death be in vain. She became a huge advocate for victims' rights and has worked so hard to make sure people like Paleologus stay behind bars.
Wow, that's incredible. She took something so horrible and turned it into something positive.
Oh, absolutely. She's a true inspiration.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to the case. Paleologus was arrested on March 11th, 2003, just a few days after Kristi's body was found. And he was charged with first-degree murder.
First-degree murder, so that means they thought he planned it, right?
Exactly. But, as you know, the legal system can be really slow.
Tell me about it.
So the trial didn't actually start until July 13, 2006.
Wow, that's over 3 years later. I can't imagine what Kristi's family went through. Waiting that long for justice?
It must have been torture. But when the trial finally started, they had over 40 witnesses testify. And it seemed like they had a really strong case against him.
So what happened?
On July 26, 2006, Paleologus decided to plead guilty.
He pled guilty?
Yeah.
But why?
He wanted to avoid the death penalty.
So it was a strategic move.
Yep.
So he admitted he was guilty, but he didn't have to face the ultimate punishment.
Right. It's definitely a controversial part of the system.
Yeah, it makes you think about what's more important, punishment or rehabilitation.
Yeah, it's tough. So Paleologus ended up being sentenced to 25 years to life with the possibility of parole.
So there's a chance he could get out eventually.
Yeah, and that's what Kristi's mom has been fighting against. She's determined to keep him behind bars.
Yeah.
She's been amazing, speaking at his parole hearings, making sure they know how dangerous he is.
That's so powerful. She's turned this horrible thing into a way to help others, to make sure no one else has to go through this.
Yeah, she's incredible. And you know what? It's actually worked. In August of 2023, Paleologos waived his right to a parole hearing.
Oh, wow. So he's staying in prison for now.
Exactly. At least until November 2025. It's a small victory.
Yeah.
But it gives us some hope,
For sure. It shows that it's important to keep fighting, even when things seem impossible. These cases can be forgotten so easily, but we can't let that happen.
You're so right. We have to keep talking about them, keep demanding change. Kristi's story is a reminder that Hollywood isn't always what it seems. There's a dark side to it, and we need to be aware of that.
Yeah, for sure. But it also shows us that people can be so strong and resilient. Like Terry Hall, she turned her pain into something positive.
Absolutely. This case brings up so many questions, though, right? About Hollywood, about the justice system.
definitely.
Like, how can we help young actors stay safe and avoid these predators?
Right, and how can we make sure that criminals are actually rehabilitated before they're released back into society?
These are tough questions, but we can't just ignore them. Kristi's case is a wake-up call. It's time to start making some real changes.
I agree. We need to be more proactive and demand a system that actually protects people.
Exactly. Justice isn't just about punishing people. It's about preventing these tragedies from happening in the first place.
Yeah, we need to create a society where everyone can follow their dreams without being afraid.
I love that. Well said. So, if you've been listening to this and you want to know more, please do some research. There are tons of organizations out there that support aspiring actors and victims of crime. The more we know about this, the better we can fight for change. We all have a role to play in making the world a safer place. And Kristi's story, as heartbreaking as it is, can be a catalyst for that change.
I think so too. We can't let her death be in vain.
We won't. Thanks for listening, everyone.